All right, we are here. Welcome to the first episode of Pro Tips.
Yeah.
I still haven't thought of a good name for it, but
I feel like that's pretty good.
what I'm trying to do is create this platform, once a week show, talking about entrepreneurship, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, showing you how to do Facebook Live, and that's exactly right. That is exactly why you hire people to do your Facebook Lives, because when you're shooting solo, it's insane. Because if live streaming had one word to describe it, it's unforgiving. Seriously.
Yeah.
If one of these cables was unplugged, the whole thing could go down, which is terrifying. But that's why you do me. I have fun with it.
And it's pretty crazy. Like I was just saying before we went live on Facebook that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. Yeah. There's no with video. It's like owning a boat or being on the water. Like if something can break, it probably will, right at the most crucial time. That's why you pay somebody to do your video.
So many times we've been live or we're about to go live, and it's that moment of like 5 minutes before, and then like somebody, or one time actually we were 10 minutes before going live, and everyth's plugged into the streaming rig back there, and someone kicked the main power for it.
Oh my God. Computer
shut down. Everything's shut down. Half the stuff is on batteries, luckily. But we got back up. We were good.
Did you have that moment of panic where you were I'm gonna have to live stream this from a coffee shop in a hot spot? Like, what am I gonna do?
Right? But that's plan D.
Yeah.
Right? So there's always being able to do custom streams up in the cloud.
Yeah.
Like you can even get the special app on your phone, so you can do it like that. But we don't tell people that because we have nice fancy cameras and microphones, and that's what it's all about.
It is all about that. That's a funny thing about Facebook Live is I see people doing it, and I do really believe, I'm not just out here trying to sell my work. Like I really do believe I don't want to watch Facebook Lives that are kind of just done in a car with someone hanging out, on their iPhone, and I'm good with that. There's certain platforms for that. Snapchat is fun for that. It's super organic, and sometimes Instagram stories, obviously, right? They're fun. It just lets people into that little portion of your life that not everybody gets to see. It's not public, and it feels super intimate and kind of cool. But on the regs, I don't want to be, I don't want to be watching an hour of that.
Definitely.
So I think that that's the other thing too, is it's we're in this market now where we have to compete. Yeah, everybody's got professional content,
Yep.
Every single business out there. So how do you compete?
Exactly.
It's one of the ways you do it.
And it's one of those things that I tell people all the time, just the fact that, when Facebook released it so that you could go live on your phone, now everyone can do it. Everyone's a mobile TV studio now, so how do you stand out? So how do you up your levels, and little production tricks that you can do, and that's
what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. So I know you brought some stats on some videos, some good research, because I tell video, I always skip that part in my presentations. I was like, video's amazing, live stream's amazing. Okay, I want to go into the technical fun stuff. But I think some people really do haven't really heard yet why video is so important, and it does for especially to promote your business. Yeah,
I think that a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, small business owners, we're all working with limited marketing budgets, right? So a lot of people go into it being, I know video. I know video is the next new thing, but I don't really know if I need that right now. You know. So the numbers support that you do. This is from the State of Video Marketing 2018 by a company called Wise Owl. They do a lot of digital marketing strategy and data research. So the average consumer watches more than an hour and a half of online video content per day, with around 15% averaging more than 3 hours.
Jeez.
15% averaging more than 3 hours of online video content.
3 hours. And that's not just watching movies, right? No. That's scrolling little micro instances of 5 minutes and maybe an hour.
Honestly, it's Facebook. It's people posting cool links to whatever, cooking videos. Or I love some of the things where they're like, oh, this is this easy one-pot meal, and it's super quick. It's 15 seconds, but it's that kind of stuff. We're not talking Netflix, we're not talking Hulu, we're not talking about watching sports on TV. This is just video content, marketing video content online.
And it's just huge. And it's those short things, like you said. I watch those recipe stuff all the time, and you actually rewatch it, and you're play pause. okay, next step.
I know, it's right. It's just the little things, and I think that's, well, we're also talking though when you visit a site and a video automates on the homepage. That's also what they're talking about in this, you know. So, 81% of businesses use video as a marketing tool. That's up 63% from 2017.
Wow.
So.
And I remember people saying like, oh, 2016, like, oh, video's the next big thing. Now 2017, oh, video's the next big thing. Okay, now it's like, we're 2018.
Yeah.
If you're not on the bandwagon yet.
Well, it's taking over. I mean, so it's, you know, and then that's that argument like, oh, well, do I need it? Is this something I need right now? When do I invest in it, right? Now. Yep. Because your competitors, 80% of your competitors are using video already, right? And I think when you look at that in certain industries, it's going to be a higher percent, right? Certain industries it'll be a little lower, but in certain industries, it's probably more around like 95% for sure.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things I always forget because I use video every day. And I'm just like, people still aren't using, some people still don't even have like a website, right? And it's just like, all right. So my phone is blowing up in my pocket. I'm just going to check Facebook real quick just to see.
Just
we
make
have,
sure we're
oh, look, we have some people.
Yay!
Awesome.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Marie.
Awesome. So yes, if you have any comments, any questions, just use the chat.
Because we're live, so we're getting them in. We can answer
There's
them right now.
a little bit of a delay, so we'll check back here and there. It's lagging here because my computer is doing so many things.
It's like, I'm trying.
It's definitely one of those things why you need to build a custom computer for live streaming.
Yeah. Did you build yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So we, between my partner Candace and I, we've built, I think, 4 computers for the business. And so this one is, you can't see it, but it's in like a whole rack. So we just load it up on site, plug it in, ready to go.
I'm the weird one that, like, I think that's really pretty. I know you guys can't see it. It is literally like it's a computer rack. I don't know how else to say it. And it's, you know, there's a bunch of equipment hooked up in there, but I'm like, oh, that's so creative.
Next Monday when I do my own live video, we'll do a studio tour and I'll do behind the scenes.
Yeah, you can see everything in here. It's pretty cool. So the last stat I wanted to throw at you is 76% of those businesses that used video last year said that it helped them increase sales. 76%. It's very difficult to get 76% as a number in any form of advertising or marketing. That's a high statistic.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
So that's huge.
That even I don't remember exactly the stat it was, but it's like really high percent. I think it's like over 50%. People would buy a product if there was a video about it.
Yes.
As opposed to like if you have a shopping cart and it's just an image.
Yeah.
Buy this thing. If there's a video to kind of like demonstrate it or like explain it, like the sales rate goes like through the roof.
Well, you know why that is? Partly is because people will stay on a site about 80% longer if there's a video there. Right. And it's a flight or fight response. It's definitely, we're drawn in by other humans' faces, right? We're trying to figure them out. We're trying to gauge where they're at, if we can make a connection, if we need to be afraid. It's very primitive, but they're finding now that by having a video on your website, people are going to stay on there about 80% longer, possibly more. So that's conversion right there. You know, you want people to stay on, you always want people to stay on your site longer. You always want them to browse more, get more involved in your story, which we're about to talk about. And buy what you've got, what you're selling. Video, there's a direct correlation between it, you know, so definitely. It's huge. It's blowing up, suffice to say.
And that's what I try to tell people too, because, you know, obviously with the forms of content, you could do, you know, you can blog, you can do text, you can do images, you can do audio like a podcast, or video combining all of them, right? And video is the only one where you can really, like, you're seeing our faces, hearing our voices, you can feel our energy, and like exactly what you're saying, you get to actually like read in, be the kind of voyeur on the outside, be like, okay, what are these people up to?
Yeah, personal connection. Yeah. And it's kind of relaxing and fun. You know, I think video is still fun for most people. It gives that kind of, ooh, you know. That
right, especially with live. Like, I have that feeling right now because I'm like, oh, geez, something's going to break. Or
something's going to go down. You're always nervous. I think you're always nervous. Whenever I produce something, people are always like, oh, do you get nervous? You know, as though it's a bad thing. I'm like, I'm always nervous. Right. Like, I think you're doing it wrong if you're not nervous. Right. You know, you're not.
Have that natural skill, but it's proof though. If I can be on camera, you can be on camera. Because no, seriously,
I
I'm like
wouldn't
behind
put it
camera,
that way.
like I'm the technical nerdy guy, but
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, I'm used to being on camera. I've been on camera since I was a kid, but I do enjoy. I actually think that's one of my strengths because I really love being behind the camera. I love the writing. I love the initial, it really forming that story and forming that script for a client where it's like, okay, like we get to talk about everything here. We get to talk about who you really are and what your business really is on the deepest level. But it's nice because then I understand from the on-camera persona side that like how nerve-wracking it is and kind of what I would like someone to say to calm me down when I'm like on camera and I'm like, oh, and you get the butterflies. It's nice that I've had that experience, or I keep having those experiences because I know from the production end like how it feels and what to say, and what to stress. Like, okay, this is what you want to do, and it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be fine.
No, and that's super important to kind of have that. Not jack of all trades, but be well-rounded.
Yeah.
On either side. That's awesome. So today, so talking about your story. That's kind of what we were talking about last time we met up. We met up at a coffee shop. We started talking about the story. We kind of like went into this big conversation about it. Like, oh, wait. We need to do this live.
We should save this for when we're on camera. Let's not.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
So when you're with your work and your brand, like what do you for like doing like branded videos, for example, like what is that kind of initial process for when you first meet with somebody? How do you like talk to them about their story? And, like what's step one for that?
So I do my business, Sujan Creative. We're a content creation company, which means that we do writing for websites, specifically the text on websites. We do photo, we do video, we do social media content as well, because that's a big thing, right? It's really the best form of advertising for a lot of businesses right now, especially small businesses, solopreneurs. So a lot of that, the way that I describe what we do is that we're storytellers. That first and foremost, and I come from a storytelling background. My dad was a screenwriter, and I learned growing up, I was involved in his business, and I learned how to pitch, and I learned how to structure this stuff, from when I was really young, and I just love doing it in all different forms now. It's so creative, and it's so, it's so fulfilling on that level.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing, when you walk into a room with a client, and, we sit down and we start talking about, okay, well, why did you decide to start this business? Because starting a business, and you know this and I know this, and we talk about this all the time, is it's such a huge feat, right? It's realizing a dream. It's like usually, for most people, it's the hardest thing they'll ever do in their life is realizing a dream, Yep. And that's exactly what starting a business is. And there's definitely a certain level of kind of angst and difficulty, and there's a refiner's fire almost that you're put through, right? So why would you choose to do that? Like, why would you choose to put yourself through all that?
Especially everyone who's like not an entrepreneur is like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go work?
Yeah, I know. That sounds crazy. I'm like, maybe it is a little bit, but it's what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. But yeah, I think it's finding that story. And a lot of people have, we were talking about this at the coffee shop the other day. Yeah. You were like, what? I'm not sure I know how to find this completely, right? And we talked about that, and there's definitely guidelines to finding that story for yourself.
Definitely. And
putting it together, and then you can kind of break it down from there, like what else appeals to your audience? How do you find your audience? I mean, those are all big questions, and that's what we answer when we produce a video for somebody. When we sit down and we really go through this kind of discovery period with them, is we're finding out what the pain points are, and we're finding out who the demographic is because of that.
Right. And that's, I think, a big misconception when people are like, okay, I'm paying for a video. You see when the crew shows up and you say, okay, action, go.
Yeah.
And then you see the final video at the end, but there's so much more before and after, and more so before, exactly what you're saying, that whole discovery process of, exactly why do you do what you do, who are you trying to target, what are we doing with this video? Because you as an artist really is like, then being able to portray that story, that message in video format. Like,
exactly.
not as easy as it sounds.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Especially working with entrepreneurs who aren't professional actors, you know,
Yes.
and of course everybody gets nervous on camera, and you say like, no, be natural, just, you know, you're promoting your business, this is what you want to do in life. And
Yeah.
it's like,
I think that the one thing that does really, you know, I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, they are really nervous about that. You know, they're like, no, I don't know, I don't really want to be on camera. Like, I know how to talk about my business, but I'm so nervous about doing it on camera, you know? And I think just to kind of allay some of those fears, like, most people aren't professional at this. Most people they've never done this before, you know?
Right.
So most of those videos that you see on people's sites, they're not professionals at it either. They're not
Of course.
professionals at being on camera, you know? But what they do know how to do is have passion for their business, and
Right.
that's what comes through on camera.
Right.
Your excitement about what you do, the care that you've put into it, right? The emotional aspect, even, and I tell this to people all the time, it's very hard for people to open up about the pain points. It's very hard for people to be vulnerable and say, like, I mean, I had one guy say to me once, you know, he's like, I cried every day for a year and a half. I don't tell anybody that, but I cried every day for a year and a half, you know, and I'm like, okay, you don't have to say it in those terms if you're not comfortable with that, but that is still something that, like, needs to get related. It's part of your story, you know, the difficulties behind what we all do here. That is what, on some level, is going to capture an audience.
Right.
So a lot of it is about being vulnerable, and that may make you nervous, but that's why we're here. You know,
Right,
that's why
right.
we've done this for so long.
Right. And I think that's what really makes a brand like human. It really humanizes it, right? And that's what is relatable to viewers.
Yeah.
You can say like, oh, my product's the best. We have the best customer service. Cool.
Yeah.
Everybody else has that too. But if you say like, oh, like I tell everybody, like, this is why I have a photo of my dog up here. Just like, okay, cool, a little subliminal thing. If you're a dog lover, then okay, boom, you have a little bit, just a little nugget of like who I am, right? And so, but you know, but then more so the pain points, the ability to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Really, that's I don't know. That's where I think like people can really connect.
I think so too. And what you said about humanizing a brand too, that's really what. So this isn't just like a concept that, you know, I'm like, I'm a storyteller, I'm going to go into marketing. This is an actual marketing concept, and it is called story marketing or storytelling marketing. I mean, if you Google it, you'll see a ton of stuff on it. And, you know, the big brands now, that's what they do.
Right.
Especially because we're in the age of video. We're in the age of, you know, there's a reason that, you know, what was the Super Bowl last year? I think it was $4.5 million for a 30-second slot, right? It's something like that. And all of those stories, I mean, if you go look up Super Bowl commercials 2017, you know, the stories behind the commercials are not about the product. They're not about, look at this great car, we're Hyundai. It's... Right. Look at what Hyundai does for the troops, right? That was one of their big spots. Red Bull, it's all about Red Bull it's not about being an energy drink. It's about what having energy does for you, what having energy does for their customers. How does that impact their demographics' life? So when you think about it, it's all about humanizing. It's all about bringing your story into your customers' lives and making your story and their story the same. Right. And that's how you get this following that doesn't want to leave, you know? Right. That's how you get a following that is strong. That's how you get repeat customers.
Definitely. And like the couple things I've been looking, I went to a couple seminars already, like last week, and they say like 2018 is all about story, right? And they even talk about big brands, like there's a reason why it's Instagram stories, it's Facebook stories, it's not, you know, video feed, something boring like that, right? It's telling your story. What are you about, right? So, and that's, I think the hardest part now is like, okay, cool, because if anybody can go online and anybody can do this, right? So you just need to find the people that you can relate to.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. Because one of the things I always tell people too, like especially online marketing, it's like it's not. At some extent, it's a numbers game, right? You put people in a funnel, more people you put in the funnel, more customers will come out, right? But it's like finding people that want to work with you. But especially if you're on a more intimate level of like a service, like creating a brand video or something
Exactly.
like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's not just finding people that want to work with you, but you need to find people that you want to work with too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like especially like shooting weddings, like was a
Mm-hmm.
huge one, right? Like it took us a while, like a couple years, but once we nailed down our exact pricing, our exact message that we wanted to, we only attracted the brides that we wanted to work with.
Yeah, yeah, it is a lot about narrowing down your message and your product and your service, and and that's something, transparency. That's another big thing we should talk about here is transparency behind your brand, and behind your story. That's
Like, what about it?
okay, so that's something that transparency builds trust.
Real quick,
Yeah.
before we get into that. Okay.
Are we blowing up?
Oh, okay. My phone's all blowing up thinking it's like, oh, we're getting so many messages. Stupid, 20-person text chain. I hate that.
I know, you're
Okay,
like,
my
does
phone's
it have
going
to
away.
be now? Does it, guys, come on. I'm going live. You're obviously not watching it if you're trying to blow up my phone.
Okay, I apologize.
No,
Transparency.
it's fine. It builds trust.
Uh-huh.
And when you think about the really big brands, Nike, you go buy a pair of shoes and they're not going to fall apart. Right? That's a given. And they can charge what they charge on some level because, yes, they've been, they strategize in order to be there. But on some level, it's built on trust. In Whole Foods, the kind of experience you're going to have in that store, right? I mean, they've been a Fortune 500 company for how long now, and they're supposed to be one of the best, big businesses to work for in the U.S. Like, the experience, the customer service experience you're going to have when you walk in there. All of this stuff is based on trust. And trust is about transparency, especially when you're starting small. As you get larger, the transparency changes, right? And you're being truthful and transparent about different things, but when you're starting small, it is about telling your story. It's about telling where you came from.
Definitely.
Richard Branson, same thing. Like, why is he so popular? Why is the guy so popular? I mean, he doesn't really, when you think about it, he doesn't appeal to every demographic, for sure. There's a very almost kind of a niche demographic that this guy really appeals to that are really like, oh, I'm like you, right?
Right.
But in the end, he tells his story, and it's really compelling, right? And he gives you glimpses into his life in a way that no one else does. And I mean, the guy is, everybody follows the guy. Everybody that wants to be in business follows the guy and studies him, So there's a lot of, I think, when you can master that and let it be very genuine and from the heart, and completely unique to you, that's when you really start to discover branding on a different level.
Right. And one thing I want to point out, just the one thing that I'm so happy you did, you avoided the A word. Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Like, be authentic.
Yeah. You can't avoid the word branding, really, because everything is about branding now. It is, I agree, but it is more about telling a story. It is more about showing who you really are, displaying it. And then being consistent with it, right? Because people will throw that word around, I think, all the time. Branding this, branding that. I need to work on my branding. And it's like, well, what do you really mean by that, though? Because you can have a logo, and it still doesn't really. I mean, and I've worked with international multi-billion-dollar companies that have they have a logo, but they don't have branding standards. They don't have, this is how this is supposed to look in this scenario, and this is how we do things. They don't have that. They never came up with that. So branding in and of itself is a concept too that is very different from just, I've got a nice logo, or it's all about having a voice. It's creating a voice. That's part of why you use video.
Right.
It's about creating a text voice too. How does your company speak,
Right.
So
you align your story with your kind of corporate brand, and that, so if I want to tell the story, does it fit within my brand? Yes? Okay, go for it. That's going to connect with my audience. Like, when you say it that way, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah.
But it's that foundation, that setup that you have to create that is the time investment, right? Especially when you're new. But once you get through that, then it's just, okay, boom, 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 right?
That's, that word setup. kind of brings me into also like, so discovering your story. That, you know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, all right, how do I even start with it? Yeah.
Like,
you kind of did.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, the other day you were like, so I don't
just
want
because I make videos, right, doesn't
Yeah.
mean, like, you know, I'm the same way, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can live stream, I like, you know, do all these cool things, but you can't exactly walk into the room and talk about video bit rates and different codecs and, like, you know, when are we going to be able to switch in the cloud? You know, those things, right?
Yeah, everybody's
just,
like,
people
glaze
just,
over.
Just like, oh yeah, that,
Yeah.
cool.
Sure. So,
But it's like,
when do we
okay,
get to go?
where do I bring, you know, my personal experiences? What drove me to get inspired to do those things, right?
Yeah.
And then what does it do for, like, exactly what you're saying? What does it do for my demographic? What does it do for my clients to, you know, help their business? And so that's the reverse engineer of, like, okay, this is what I like. But what is it? You know, what is it? Where does it? You know, where does its role live, right? Because it's one of those things that, you know, when we were making marketing videos, you know, a lot of times with people like, okay, cool, I have a video. Now what do I do? Like, you know, like,
What do I do with
I
it?
just slap it on my homepage of my website? And it's like, okay, no, you know, create more of a marketing campaign and like use it. And so, it's interesting.
It is. That when we were talking the other day, I think we started talking about your story, right? And how to develop it, right? Into something that's more branded and more useful for you and can kind of fuel Go Global Live, right?
Right.
And I think it reminded me, because I was saying this to you, but, you know, it's one really useful tool is to start thinking of your story as though it's in 3 acts, which is very, and, you know, I come from a screenwriting background and all of that, so I think that's familiar to a lot of writers, but you do want to think of it as 3 acts, and where do the experiences in your life fit into those acts? So you've got the setup, right? You've got how you grew up and where you went to school and your early career, and, you know, for most people, most entrepreneurs, that's the setup. It's letting people understand the experiences that made you who you are in order to then talk about the conflict. And the conflict is, it's pain points, right? It's, I lost my job. This is me, actually. I lost my job. I got laid off from what I thought was just going to be this amazing sales job at a multimedia and video company, a startup in Silicon Beach, Playa Vista, and everything was going great, and I was really excited about it, and then they went under. And we just got called in one day, and they were like, well, you know, this is your last day. And we all just kind of...
By the way.
Yeah, total shock.
Sitting there in the morning with coffee.
Basically, that's,
great.
Yeah, that's, and we just kind of, okay, well, guess I'll see you all later. Have a nice life, and, you know, it's kind of
and that's terrifying. Like, what do you do in that moment?
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
You just,
Especially with this thing that, you know, I thought was so promising at one point, and I was like, okay, well, but so that there's the conflict, right? You definitely, and considering that it is a story, then so you got this conflict of what do I do, right? I mean, how do I make ends meet? Because, and all of us at that position had been there for such a short time, because it was a new company that we didn't have, like, severance packages. Plus, they were going under, you know? You can't. Right. So, and then on top of it, that doesn't look real good on your resume, you know, especially at first glance from a company. Like, you're sending out all these resumes, and people are like, why are you only there a few months, you know? So, there's that conflict, but again, so you've got that 3-part structure, right? The conflict and then the resolution. So what's the resolution for me? I started freelancing. And then very quickly into freelancing, I was like, I absolutely love this. I'm the happiest I've ever been, you know? And I thought, let's see if I can turn this into an actual business idea that's viable. And from there, it was kind of just, you know, I just went for it. And that's that 3-part structure. And if you can start to try to identify that, you know, it sometimes it's not as intimidating of a process to get creative about the branding of your business or to get creative about your story, right? And to tell it honestly, because you do then have a little bit of kind of a template to go off of. So that's definitely one way to do it. And if I'm working with someone, like if I'm working with a client on a branding video, I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, so we're going to work on these 3 things and because that's just going on in my head naturally, you know. But yeah, you know, if you take a look at most videos out there, they follow some type of structure like that naturally, you know, and that's a really great way to kind of take some of the intimidation out of it and start to work on it on your own.
Right. Definitely. And I could definitely agree with that. You know, like, you know, last time we were talking about like my personal story, trying to, you know, figure it out. Like there was some, you know, you don't want to ever tell somebody that like you failed at one point or you know, you had that really like, oh crap moment, like what do I do? But I think that's what happens with a lot of people.
Yep.
And so that's what we were talking about before, like kind of my backstory is like me and like I've been fortunate, I've never had a real job.
Yeah.
You know, so through college, you know, me and my business partner Candace, we started our first business when, you know, we were in college, had a part-time job, it was great, you know, making videos and eventually started live streaming and it was fantastic, right? And we were growing slowly year over year, but you know, we weren't making 6 figures each, right? So, and then there was that one point where my conflict would be, you know, then she got a job offer that she couldn't refuse, you know.
Which you were very understanding of because,
of course. Like, and honestly, like if I got that opportunity, like I would have taken it too. Like it was her, like too perfect for her. Fitting her personality. It goes within live streaming. It's in the nonprofit world. It's in, you know, with nature and animals. Like if you know Candace, like it is her dream job. And
I don't know Candace, by the way. So if you're watching, hi Candace.
Yeah. So anyway, so like like everyone's super happy for her, and it's all well and good. So like I just take that pivot point of, okay, I'm making these videos and we're such a good team together, right? So you can't just hire and contract out that when you have such that, you know, systematic place. Like, you know, I don't even have to, like you know, we developed the system together, right? So like I did a lot of like the front end, the production. She did a lot of like the post work and like the reviews and dealing with the clients. So it's like, how do you, like, you can't just hire for that, right? So it's one of those like, ah, crap. What do I do? Right? So, but it was that little bit of a blessing in disguise, right? So you're like, okay, cool, I've been doing all this stuff up until this point. If I had to do something on my own, like what could I do and be able to scale it and, you know, just, you know, change it. So that's why I launched Go Global Live and now get the opportunity to focus just on live streaming because that's what I love to do.
Exactly.
Like, it's super technical. It's the rush of being live, right? And it's just, it's a lot, and it can apply to everything from a live concert to a wedding to, you know, being corporate, right? So, but then two, so now our 2 part of the business is, you know, one, being able to give professional live stream production, but then also the e-course to show people how to do it themselves. Right? Because it's that, when you start out, like, honestly, like, we're in a home office studio right now. Like, it's not that hard. Like, we have a bunch of lights up.
You built this. You built the backdrop. This is not, the wood paneling is not original to the house. It is only on this side, so. And I have a little video in my Instagram story today. If you go to Aaron Sujan on Instagram, you'll see a little video that shows from our perspective what all this looks like. So it's very interesting, you know, and it's so doable. I think that's what I love about your courses. Is that, or your course, the videos in your course.
Soon to be courses.
Yeah, soon to be courses, soon to be plural. But I love it that, you know, because in keeping with the theme of story, that's a big way that you do it. You blog and you vlog and you let people in, you know, to whatever level of comfortability that you have. You let people in, you let your demographic in, and a lot of that is, you know, now it's becoming not just putting a story on Instagram and not just, you know, doing a live video on Instagram once in a while and you're going to the Hermosa Beach Pier tree lighting or whatever, you know, like it's very much how do you keep yourself in people's homes day to day? Video, you know, and it's very much, I think that's something that business owners really need to start learning how to do, especially those of us who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, you know, small business owners. It's a way of differentiating you from your competitors. That's another thing I want to talk about is competition and story. Because I think there's a lot, they impact each other.
Before you say that, I just had the thought, one of the things I always tell people, because people, It was like, oh, but what if I want to do stuff that's not like super professional all the time? Like people love the crap out of behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Like,
I know.
It's insane.
BTS.
And it's one of those things like I always struggled with like in my business. We'd go for like months, and then people I'd see family or friends. They're just like, oh, hey, so how's business? How's it going?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you don't know what's going on? We've been doing all this crazy stuff. It's like one of those things like you have to let people in on your life. You have to let people in on like the little behind the scenes, and even just what you're doing, even like to the day to day. Just so. But now that I've started to do it more, and especially with this, like we're all over the place. And now when I go to places, when I go to different networking events, I go to different parties with friends. Now they're just like, they don't say, oh, what are you up to now? Now it's like, oh, hey, I saw your video. That
exactly.
was really cool.
That's when it gets fun. Is when
making that switch is like, it's so awesome because now everybody that I network and talk to in my personal life are now connected online, and people can share that, and it's just
they're finally starting to see it all and kind of and notice. Yeah, it's exhilarating when that starts to happen. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's the best.
So, how do you differentiate your story?
So, here's the thing. I mean, and not everybody's like this, but you and I were talking about this, about getting together a group of people in video in the area, right? Because I lived in D.C. for 5 years at one point during my career, and got a lot of great experience with government agencies and working for the political scene and big businesses. But one of the things that I really took away from that time was that we had a group of videographers there and people who were in the creative field, right, and content creators. And we just got together like once a month. I mean, it was, and we all basically did the same thing. I mean, we were all technically competing against each other, but they're still around, and they have a Facebook group and an open chat and stuff where they're just constantly throwing business back and forth to each other. And I think that one of the reasons that works is that their businesses are so based off of their personalities that it's not a competitive thing for them. They're all getting business, they're all doing well, and they all are smart people that understand their fields and know their craft really well. And they're just helping each other out, And I think that that's one of those, and one of my mentors says this too, that, she doesn't really consider other people who do what she does competition, that she and I are kind of in the same, we're both in marketing, but she's like, I look at that and say, oh, okay, great, this person could help me, this person could help my business, because we are in the same field. I think that one of the ways, if you're nervous about going about it that way, I think that one of the ways that you can ensure that you're really not in competition with anyone on some level is you have to be so uniquely you, and that all comes from your story. You have to be so uniquely who you are at your core, and let that inform what your company becomes on the branding level. I'm kind of running an experiment with that this year. Like, I decided late last year, okay, I really need to be posting more, and I was like, I'm sick of seeing people just post about business stuff and repost articles from this or that great news source about business this and business that and marketing this and marketing that, and I'd started to do that, and I was like, I'm bored by my own content. This isn't good, And
you gotta take that hard look at your own stuff. You're like, would I watch this? Would I? Am I really bringing value?
Exactly.
Or am I doing like almost like a commodity? Like, am I doing what everybody else is doing?
Exactly. Am I adding value to people's lives? Like, why would they let me into their living rooms? Why do they let me into their phone? And I'm like, I wouldn't let me into my phone. So I started thinking really, and strategizing about this, and I was like, I need to start talking from my heart. And I also went through a period where I was getting clients that it became just painfully obvious that I was taking on clients, and clients were finding me, and we didn't mesh. And I was like, why is this happening? And I thought, well, because you're not completely sure of who your demographic is yet. That's why. You don't know for yourself. And so I've had to take a very hard look at that and start really saying, like, okay, this is the year that I let it all out. This is the, and not in an unprofessional way, but this is the year that I really tell my story and I see who it impacts. And those people are my tribe. Those people are, and by tribe, I think that that's where kind of that intersection of personal and professional relationships happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they are your tribe, and the tribe is going to become repeat business.
Right.
You know, and,
Yeah.
and that's when I think you don't have to be salesy. A lot
Right.
of people hate being salesy, you
Right.
know, and at that point, you don't have to be salesy. You have something that someone else needs,
Yeah.
and they have something that you need,
Right.
and
you
it's
generally
a
get
transaction.
to say, I understand you, I understand what your issue is,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the solution for it.
Exactly.
And we're going to get along great.
Yeah.
We did that same thing, because before, like, you think about live streaming, right? Like, you could live stream anything, right? Any live event.
Exactly.
So we've done, you know, pro sports to music to weddings to
School graduations.
Haven't done graduation yet.
Oh,
I want to do
okay.
a graduation.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
looking for it. If you know anybody who works in a school district, then you need to live stream their graduation, because
Oh, we
I
need
know
to
how
talk,
it is.
actually.
Okay, good. Hey, fantastic. But for the same thing with us, like, and just a quick example, we did an indie pro wrestling league one time.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun, but it was one of those things where we're just like, okay, cool, yeah, that'll be fun. It was definitely a learning curve,
Yeah.
but it's so different. Like, we had all the gear, everything was great. It would have been better if we brought all the gear, set it up, and like had, you know, the technical side of it, because when it really came down to like the creative, like, they're expecting like WWE style thing, and it's
Yeah.
just like, I've never directed that before. I
Yeah.
don't know those fancy, you know,
The
camera
angles.
where,
Did you have
know,
a drone coming in? You're
Right.
live streaming drone footage.
Yeah. So it was one of those things, like, you know, it worked out, but it's just like, okay, that's just a whole nother industry, a whole nother world that, you know, I can support. But I understand entrepreneurs, like, who I really find the value is, like, that's, you know, a smaller business that's like a coach or a professional speaker just starting out, and they're hosting their own seminar, and they can fill the room with maybe 20, 30 people, right?
Yeah.
You know, just starting out. I'm like, okay, cool. Hire me to come in the back of the room and put a camera on and put a microphone on you.
Yeah.
And if I can get 20 to 30 people to watch online, I just increased your audience by 100%.
Yeah.
You know, and just think that the scale of
Yeah.
the internet is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's where I want to encourage people to, like, you know, get started now. Get started with your video efforts now. There's a funny little saying that if you're not embarrassed of your first several videos, you didn't start soon enough.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, get started now. I was just talking with someone the other day, actually. She's a wonderful person. She, you know, hosting a talk soon, and a lot of times people are scared because they think, oh, well, I'm not a professional speaker yet. So I don't know that I want to document this.
Right.
Or I'm not this or that. You know, I was talking too with another, you know, former client once that he was just like, I don't know if I want my face on the company. You know, like, I can be the faceless voice behind the company, and yes, it comes from it. Yeah, I know what you mean, though. It's a real concern for a lot of people, you know,
Right.
as courageous as we all are, getting out there, and brave and stupid sometimes, but brave. And, you know, like, and getting out there and doing what we love, you know, regardless of the obstacles. Sometimes
Right.
that kind of, the self-doubt gets you.
And I
you
think
know?
about it, like, you know, and I started, like, really documenting the behind the scenes, like, even
Yeah.
daily stuff, even if it's just like on my personal profile, so my friends and family can see it.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things that I think, like, really growing your tribe with all those people who are going to support you from the beginning. So imagine once you do reach that cusp and you do make it successful, and now you get all these eyes on it.
Yeah.
Imagine the people who were there at the beginning, like, I was there.
Yeah,
You know, everyone
right?
wants to be that person who discovered the band before they went mainstream, right?
Exactly.
Like, and
Well, I knew him when.
right.
Yeah,
No, exactly. And
yeah.
I think for a lot of people, if, you know, especially people who don't want to be an entrepreneur, that just want to be an employee, they want to support somebody else's dreams because they're going for it. Like, they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So being able to watch that journey and then be able to see them, like, flourish in it, then it's like, oh, you know, that's your VIP for life. You know,
yeah,
people,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But I think everybody's got at least, you know, a few of those people, and those are the people and that's who you're doing it for. Like, it's like, hey, I'm still trying, you know, here
Yeah.
I'm doing it, and thanks for supporting me, and then up and up and up and up.
Yeah, but it's intimidating, and there's
Right.
no. It's okay that it's intimidating. It's
Right.
okay if you feel intimidated by it, but I think it's another one of those things. And again, lots of entrepreneurs understand this, where it's intimidating, but do it anyway. You know,
Well,
you need
it's
to
a process, just like anything. Just like any skill, any, you know, you're going to go up, exercise, build your muscles, it's a process. You want to run a marathon, start jogging around the block.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah,
It's one of those things.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Right.
But that's something I'm really interested with Go Global Live and the course, is that I get those requests all the time, and I haven't actually gone in and done it for anybody yet. But I'm looking at, you know, I'll go in to clients, and I'm starting to think about offering it as a package, because I go in, you know, all the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's just spend an hour, and I'll give you some pointers about how to vlog, you know. But the truth is, I mean, it's so easy now, if you have a little bit of budget, to go ahead and get a professional DSLR, you know, and to go ahead and get some lighting equipment. I mean, it doesn't even need to be like what we have here. It can be
honestly,
ring light,
like,
you
other
know.
than these ones, like this lighting setup is like under $60.
And
like,
I was just gonna say that.
It's not even that high
Exactly.
end.
Like the lighting equipment that you can get now that's available, especially when they start coming out with these LED light panels, you know, it's so inexpensive and so accessible. We used to have to go to B&H and, you know, to go find go through the B&H catalog, and now you can go on Amazon and buy this stuff on Prime, you know, so everything is really, it's just been so facilitated for the consumer.
Oh, yeah.
That it is, you know, like, I think that's why what you're doing is going to blow up, because people just need the training. Yeah.
And it's one of those things, right? Because exactly, like, and I'm so happy because, like, on the creative end, you're showing people how to find their story and how to do it.
Yeah.
And then I get to bring my element of teaching people the technical sides of it, which if you just do, like, little pro tips, you know, just to elevate it. And so, and that's why that's why I created the course, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things, like, I would love to teach people live and help them create their own home studio, but it's like, that's very time consuming, right?
Yeah.
And
It
too,
is.
like, and a lot of it is just, okay, hey, set your lights up this way, and you know, turn your camera horizontally.
Yeah.
Like little things,
A
right?
lot of it is, and it's, you know, it's funny because that's something that I like about working with you a lot, is that you're not judgy about people's ability. I get really tired, and I've worked with so many videographers who, you know, it is a very technical thing. I mean, that's why there's so much knowledge behind it, and, you know, there's so much knowledge behind photography already, right? Lighting and the artistic sensibility, but just the sheer technical, you know, ability that you have to be able to do it well. And then you add 25 frames per second, you know, and all of a sudden it's just exponentially increased. Like, the technical side of it is like, but so there is a lot of knowledge that you have to have, but I get really tired of these videographers who are so techy that they get upset with people who don't know how to don't know that, you know, technically you should be holding your phone horizontally, and they get all upset about it, and like, they make fun of them, and I'm like, look, we've had 15 years of experience, you know?
Me and Candace joke all the time, is like, your ego's as big as your lens, right?
Yeah,
you show up on a job, whoever's got the big, giant lens, people are like, oh, that person's professional. Jeez.
And you're like, actually, they're, like, zooming into the back of the building, and they can see the stucco on the back of the garage. Like, that's all they can see. Like, it doesn't make you a professional. It just means you're looking at things from really far away.
Well, and I think part of that is, you know, going back to my story, like, I've always loved teaching people, and I love technical stuff, and it's just natural. Like, I am one of 8 siblings.
Wow. I didn't know that about you. You learn something new every day.
They're kind of spread out, but I have 5 younger brothers. Wow. And the majority of them are under, like, a decade younger than me. My youngest brother is 14 years younger than me. And so, like, them coming up, like, just that instinctual, so to me, like, that, I can't think of any other reason why, but, like, being able to teach them and being able to teach other people, right? And it's like, cool, I know video and live streaming, and now there's a really efficient and free way to put a camera on yourself and market your business. Like, people need to know this. You know, that secret that, you know, if it's a good secret, you know, you just take it and make your millions of dollars. But now that it's become, like, and we're just at the right time of it.
It's on Instagram right now, and we're downgrading the video quality that's coming through my iPhone in order to get it on to Instagram Live. Like, the phone is gonna, if I play back that, it's going to play back at a higher resolution than you're seeing it right now, because we don't have the technological capabilities yet to fully transmit the video that's on the iPhone.
It'll be there.
So
it's getting there.
It's getting there.
So it's one of those things, like, and all we teach in the course, and all what the technical, everyone's like, oh, I'm so scared of tech. You know, it's like, oh, that doesn't mean like I'm a software engineer, right? I'm not coding everything.
Well,
but
you did build your own computer, but
that's different. But but it's just
Sure it
really thinking, what elements can I control?
Yeah.
What elements can I not control?
Yeah.
And right, so it's like when you think of a photography and videography, so it's like, how do I capture this light using my different parameters, right?
Exactly.
And so it seems really daunting when there's a lot of buttons. And it's like, it's really as easy pushing one button.
Yeah.
But when there's a million buttons, you just have to know which one to push. Once you know which one to push, it's super easy.
So, yeah.
But it's just, right, and exactly, like, and just because you started a business doesn't inherently make you a professional videographer. Doesn't initially make you a fantastic accountant or whatever, right? So you have to build your team around you to help support you get to those things.
Yep.
You can do what you like, developing your story and actually bringing value, helping the people you want to help.
Fill in the gaps.
Yep.
Yeah. I also had one of my mentors tell me recently, and I thought this was such a great way of putting it. She was like, you may make the same mistake over and over and over and over again in different ways. Like, it's not, you want to fail up, and you definitely, all of those things, right? You want to learn from your mistakes, but there may be an area where you're just not, that's not your thing, like you're maybe not so good at that, and that's okay. Like, you may make mistakes in that area of your business over and over and over again on smaller or greater, scales, but you kind of have to know yourself and understand that, okay, this is an area of weakness. If I don't want to make this mistake, maybe I should let somebody else handle it, you know? So it's
all that personal development, right?
Yeah,
Figuring out, realizing I love more tech stuff. So I'm like, hey, Aaron, we have a client who wants to do a brand video. You want to do all the creative discovery stuff? Like, that's your jam?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah,
right? Let me know when somebody wants to live stream something.
It does get, it's one of the reasons I love the process is that it does get very, I think, it's, for some people it's therapeutic, You come out of it having taken a look back on your life and really delved into your own story and what happened. And, a lot of times we're so judgmental of ourselves during the event, or when we're deep in the circumstances, we're so hard on ourselves that when you come out of it and you see, like, wow, I've built this thing, and maybe it isn't even where I want it to be right now, or there's so many more places it can grow, but I built this thing, and look at where I was a bit ago, and look at what I struggled through. And it can be for clients, like I'll people kind of start to realize, like, wow, no, I really did this, and it was really hard, but wow, this is incredible, And that's one of the things that, just on a personal level and like the fulfillment that I get out of my job, I love that. Like you were saying, teaching people, like I love seeing people kind of come out of that and be like, wait a second, my life's pretty awesome. Like, wait a second, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right for myself.
Doing what I like to do, and I get paid for it. And I get to genuinely help people. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of brings you back to what's important. So,
right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We're getting up on an hour here. Should we take a look at at some Facebook?
Naturally could talk about this stuff all day.
Stuff.
Crystal.
Ooh.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi. Phase 1 tribe. You are inspiring me to take a leap and finally start my own business. Oh, awesome. Good. Yay, Crystal.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Okay, so we're coming up on an hour to kind of wrap things up. One of the things I heard was like the best time to have start was 20 years ago. The second best time to start is now. Yeah. So if you were to give someone like, the top 3 tips, whatever, on what they could do today to, start building their story, building a brand, and then, what are the initial things, and then what could somebody do today? I
would say write it out. You don't have to write it out as in, once upon a time there was a little girl named Erin, and, you don't have to write it that in depth, but that would be my first thing. I would say at least write down those 3 categories, right? So there's the setup, then there's the conflict and the resolution. And the resolution not being like, oh, this is the end of the story and everybody lived happily ever after, but the resolution being, this is what I did to get myself out of that conflict, or this is what I'm doing, right, to solve that problem. I mean, the conflict and the word problem are actually like interchangeable, right? I would write those down on paper and start really thinking about, you know, what happened to make you start your business, and fit the circumstances or the happenings into those three categories, and see what you come up with, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know for when we were talking about your story, it was kind of like, you know, you were like, I feel lucky. Like, I feel like I've had a great life and a great career so far, and I don't think I have a lot of pain points that are, like, worth mentioning, you know? You were like, because you've got a great outlook on things, but finding that, okay, like, I had to make this decision when my partner got this amazing job. I had to make this decision of where to go.
Right.
That is a point that I think a lot of people can relate to. Everyone can relate to, you know?
It was 2 weeks of, like, oh, crap.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't know about this, but it's, you know, that, so for you, that's the conflict right there, you know? So really taking a look at your experiences as they relate to the business and figuring out what that flow is, you know?
Definitely.
So that's one thing, I guess. Three things to start building your story. Take a look at your branding. I'm doing that right now.
I know.
It's very hard.
Jordis, I'm going to call you soon. She helped develop, like, a lot of our websites. And,
oh,
like,
nice.
And I'm like, no, ClickFunnels, I can figure it out. I need to, like, launch now.
Yeah. But I mean,
but I definitely need some work.
Well, and the branding translates everywhere, right? It's not just, I mean, and again, I think being really authentically yourself is your branding in a lot of ways, right? So how does that translate into the colors in your logo and the font? A lot of small business owners don't think to look at the font. Like, what is the font communicating? Are you still using Times New Roman? That's fine if you are.
No Comic Sans.
No, I'm not a big serif fan, but that's fine if you are. But what does it say? Is it in line with what you want to say? You know, it's very, a lot of these concepts are very new to small business owners. They've not thought of them before, you know? So really taking a look at, you know, and this is where I'm going to be doing a whole content piece on this very soon, but I'm going to be rebranding my clothing, you know, rebranding kind of my look, because I don't feel that my look right now is expressive of what I want to say with my brand, you know?
Interesting.
So, but all of that across the board, you know, just start thinking about it. Start listing things that, the qualities of you that you want to portray in your business, you know, and make it more personal. I think also the big intimidating one usually for people, what's that pain point? And who does that relate to? What's that pain point that you don't really want to talk about? Because there's tons of things you could say that maybe you're fine with talking about, right? But what's that one you don't want to talk about? And how can you talk about it in a way that will really draw your demographic to you, you know, that will kind of be like a siren song for the people that understand that, you know, and just start thinking of that, getting comfortable with it, you know, kind of walking around it, seeing
Sleep
how
on
you
it,
feel.
think about it, tell a couple people,
and
figure it out. That's awesome.
Well,
if I had one tip for just getting started with video, horizontal. Get it right. But just keep a steady angle. If one, try it. Go for it. Even if you don't do it live, or even if you don't post it, just try recording a couple videos. You know, just a simple introduction video that can maybe, you know, live at the top of your social media as you create your story. Just try to deliver it. Practice. You know. But the biggest tip, if you do it, have a steady angle and don't do the dreaded low angle. Don't have it down here.
No.
Just bring it eye level, like we're having a conversation. You're you're with us.
We don't want to look up your nose. We don't like that. We want to look from here.
I think a lot of people just, you know, open the laptop and they just like go for it. And it's props for doing it, but that's if it's two big tips. Make it horizontal, raise it up a little bit, and you'll be fine.
I think my two tips would be the lighting. You want to make sure the light's in front of you. In front of your face. Don't be backlit. Also, try your best to not have a mix of artificial and natural light. And what I mean by that is, if you have a lamp and a window, try turning off the lamp, because the light's going to look so much better and so much more professional if you don't have kind of this yellowish light from the lamp and this bluish light from the window. And thankfully, thank God for the iPhone, because your cell phone's sensor will actually adjust the aperture, so it'll just adjust how light or dark it thinks the room is based on the light that's on your face. So you don't have to worry about all of that stuff we have to worry about.
Right? No, but to that point, like, your phone will do everything for you, but you're talking about artificial and natural light, the color temperature of everything, right? Your phone that can auto-expose, auto-focus, auto-white balance, all those things, right? And so everything we talk about in the course. So if you want to know more stuff,
God's
then
gift to
go over there.
mankind, the iPhone.
But yeah. So
thanks
for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for being here with us too. I had a lot of fun.
So this is the first experiment of the show. I'm sure you'll be back. Maybe not next week, but I'm sure next month. We have talking about themes
Soon.
of each month. So
yes.
Once we get that, we'll be back.
Exciting. Bye.